Alright, good afternoon, SOCCENT Warriors. Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. Try to keep this one a little bit shorter today. Basically we're at the point with this COVID thing that life's not going back to normal anytime soon. And that, is going to result in decreased access to care for a lot of you folks that are dealing with musculoskeletal type things, sprains, strains, aches, stuff that is not as serious. So what I want to do today in today's video is kind of give you some ideas for self-treatment ideas. A lot of them we've already talked about in some of the previous videos. So I just want to kind of go over a decision-making chart that I like to use in my head when I'm treating patients, or when I get people that come to me in class for some of our strength and conditioning classes. It's kind of similar to like if you had a issue with your phone or your laptop or anything like that, and you call IT and they ask you, did you unplug it, turn it on and off, you try clearing the storage and the memory, all those different things that you can do on your own before someone comes out to look at your device. This is similar to what you would do with your body. So a lot of these questions that are in this chart is what I ask a lot of the athletes around here before I kind of make the decision to do a higher level of care with them. So I'm going to go over this with you real quick. So basically the main question that we want to ask ourselves is this pain mechanical? And what I mean by that is when you move, does that change how it feels? So whether when you put weight on it, whether when you lift your arm, or whether you are using resistance, if that changes your pain, either makes it better or worse, you can typically classify that as mechanical pain. And that's going to be important because that typically means it's a musculoskeletal type issue, and that's something that we can work on, or you can try some self-treatment ideas that might help it. So if the answer to that question is no, what you want to do is you want to look at red flag signs. Those are going to be indicators of potentially more serious injury. This chart is not meant to diagnose you. It's not meant to tell you exactly what your problem is. It's mainly just an idea to put you in the right direction for some self-techniques you can try at home. So red flag signs would be pain that doesn't change with any type of activity, so it's constant all the time. Pain that also happens at night, so it wakes you up at night. Changing positions in bed doesn't influence it at all. Any trauma that would suggest a fracture, typically age greater than 55. Fevers, chills, sweats, bowel or bladder issues. There's a lot more, but those are just some of the main ones that if you have some of those things going on, you may want to go to a medical doctor and get that checked out. If the answer is yes, if you do have mechanical pain that changes with movement, you have to start to think about what type of pain is it. So one of the first questions I ask is, do you have numbness or tingling or any radiating pain that occurs? The radiating part doesn't always mean that it's a nerve type pain, because you can have radiating pain from musculoskeletal issues, a referred muscular pain, but if you also have the numbness and tingling that radiates down your arm or down your leg, those type of things tend to be more nervous system, like nerve root or something like that related. So if the answer to that question is yes, you're going to think about doing nerve glides, self-traction, and spinal range of motion exercises. Self-traction would be just a way to replicate what we do in the clinic with mechanical traction. There are also some home traction units you can look at purchasing online. I'm not recommending that, but they're out there if you want to look them up. I haven't really shown any of those techniques in any videos yet, so stay tuned for a future video on those techniques. If you're watching this video later, go back and check that video out. If the answer is no, you don't have numbness and tingling, the next thing I think about is, do you have pain with resistance? So if you're pushing or pulling or lifting into something, basically getting the muscles to contract, and it starts to become painful, that's typically suggestive of a soft tissue type injury. Again, this chart's not meant to diagnose you guys and tell you exactly what's wrong with you. It's meant to just kind of steer you in the right direction of things to try if you're delaying your care or you're not seeking care for other reasons. So if you do have pain with resistance, some things you can try would be any type of soft tissue work, so the foam roller, if you have a massage gun, If you have a lacrosse ball, something like that, you can try to work those kinks out. I've done a video on soft tissue work before, so go ahead and check that one out. Stretching for the muscles. Again, I made a video on stretching to give you guys some examples, so check that out for some stretching ideas. And then sub-threshold strengthening. So sub-threshold strengthening is basically a concept of trying to encourage tissue remodeling via exercise that is below the threshold that would typically cause pain. One great way that we use that in the clinic can be with eccentric exercises or negative exercises, just because of the type of contractions that you give with the tissue and how it helps remodel. I haven't really done any type of video on that, so stay tuned. That'll probably be a future idea. If you don't have pain with resistance, the next question I start to think about is, do you have pain with weight bearing? So if you shift onto it, or if you're doing impact type activities, jumping, landing, running, those type of things, does it increase the pain? And that can be suggestive of something in the joint. So if that's the case, you want to start thinking about self-mobilizations, joint mobilizations. We've done one before talking about the mobility band. Switching your training to low impact temporarily, that's might not be the fix for your problem, but it might give the joint or whatever a chance to kind of rest and kind of ease off and recover a little bit. So that would be like, instead of running, you do something like biking or rowing, something of that matter. Or trying some taping or bracing techniques. We haven't talked about taping or bracing yet, but sometimes taping can be a great way to offload forces and just get sometimes joints or muscles feeling better. For example, if you have patellofemoral pain, like pain around your kneecap when you're doing, let's say, running, sometimes putting some tape around the patellofemoral joint will help it feel better. So I haven't done a video on that either, so that'll probably be a future one, so stay tuned for that. If you do not have pain with weight bearing, the next question I start to think about is, anything swollen? Do you have swelling? So if you have swelling in the joint, usually you have pain with weight bearing, but not always. And you can have swelling in other places besides joints. You can have swelling in a muscle or whatever. So if that's the case, then you want to start thinking about things that will help decrease that swelling. So ice compression and potentially non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Again, I'm not recommending or pushing medications on anyone right now, but that is the purpose of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, is to decrease that inflammation. So they're available over the counter, and that would be something that you guys could consider. We've done a video on how to make your own ice bath at home. So if you have swelling, whether it be in one area of your body or systemically, you could give that a try. If you don't have swelling, the next thing that I start to think about in my head is, do you have pain with joint end ranges of motion? So for example, let's say you're in the bottom of a squat position and you feel something pinching in your hip, or you're doing something overhead and you feel something pinching in your shoulder. That could be suggestive of something like impingement. So for that, I would probably recommend trying some joint mobilizations again with the band, or doing some soft tissue stretching, just to kind of create more flexibility, range of motion, and free up some space. If you don't have that, if you don't have any of these things, I would kind of go back to my original question and consider, do you actually have mechanical pain? If it's not anything that's numbness or tingling, if it's not anything that is painful with resistance, if it's not anything that has pain with weight bearing, if it's not swollen, if you don't have anything at the end ranges of motion, then I would really start to ask, how can movement influence your pain? That's going to be a tough one to answer if you answered no to all of the previous questions. So that's all I got today. Again, these are mainly just to be ideas for you guys, for people that either are in a position where they can't access medical care, or they're apprehensive about going to the doctor and getting things looked at right now with what's going on. This is not meant to substitute going and receiving care. My time frame for doing some of these self-treatment ideas would be about 1 to 2 weeks. So if I get an athlete that comes to me with a sprain or strain, and they're a low level of irritability, so low to moderate pain, the frequency and duration is low, I'll give them some of these self-treatment ideas first before we talk about doing something further or getting imaging or just obtaining a higher level of care. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments what you think about some of these self-treatment ideas, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.